Good morning, my name is Peggy Cooper. I am the library media teacher as well as the English department coordinator at Cedarbrook Middle School. This is Iris Parker, she is our building principal. Cedarbrook Middle School is a middle school of about 750 students. We are directly north of the city, the first of Philadelphia, the first suburb out of Philadelphia. We have a very diverse population. I think about 57% of our kids are African American. We also have a Hispanic population, an Asian population, as well as a Caucasian population. Today we're going to present on our Writing Across the Curriculum program. So the program's roots, about 5 or 6 years ago, we had a school that was, I don't want to say it was in turmoil, but we were struggling a little bit. We had had a large parent group that wrote a very non-positive report about us, and we started a couple programs to try and let the community know that we really were a very strong school and make our strengths even stronger. So we started with a program called Instructional Focus of the Month. And, go ahead. The Instructional Focus of the Month program really was based in Strategies at Work by Harvey and Goodice. And really the goal of Instructional Focus of the Month was to explicitly teach reading skills to all students using a common language, for the students as well as for the staff. Also at that time, we started a Reading Across the Curriculum program where we asked each major subject area, with the help of the library, the gifted support teachers, to select one substantial piece of reading, whether it be a novel or an extended article, to teach those strategies at work in their classrooms with content that made sense for them. The programs, Instructional Focus of the Month and Reading Across the Curriculum, were very, very successful. But at that time, we'll go ahead to the next thing. As part of that, one of the things that we did, and by we I mean the library gifted partnership, was we wrote open-ended responses that mirrored the OERs, or the open-ended responses that the state asked on PSSAs, but that focuses on the content that we wanted kids to teach. And we did this for every novel that we put in Reading Across the Curriculum, as well as every story that we taught in English or in reading classes, so that all kids were seeing the same format for their open-ended responses. We were hoping that that consistency would help. The first year we did it, one of the things that we noticed on the PSSA when the kids were doing their open-ended responses, they get a piece of scrap paper, and almost all of our kids, especially our weakest performing students, actually recreated the organizer that we had been using week after week after week on the test. And it was really eye-opening to us, because we felt like it was working. Kids that we would have thought would have only wrote 2 or 3 sentences were writing 2 or 3 paragraphs, and they were planning it out ahead of time. About at the same time, we had a meeting with our sending elementary school, and where the teachers told us, in no uncertain terms, because of the pressure to perform well on the reading part of the PSSA, they had all but stopped doing writing assignments. And we were seeing the consequences of that. Our kids were coming up unprepared to write. So what we tried to do was to build on these 2 programs to help our students with their writing as well. Go ahead. So our program's belief is that cooking is kind of like, or writing is kind of like cooking. In cooking, if you know what you're doing, you don't have to follow a recipe, you know what to do. And writing is the same way. If you know how to write, you write. But if you don't know how to write, there should be a recipe that you can follow. And if we can teach the kids the recipe, if they can internalize the recipe, then they can become writers or they can become cooks. We know that best writers are readers, but let's be honest, there's a lot of kids that don't like to read, and they still need to be able to write. So we tried to follow the model of Strategies at Work, go ahead, to provide explicit instruction in what good writers do, as well as common language. We wanted the kids to hear the same thing over and over again, so they were not confused. We also were very specific about providing exemplars. Anytime there was a good piece of writing, we wanted to take it and put it somewhere where anyone could have access to, whether it be a parent, whether it be a student, or whether it be a classroom teacher. Repetitive practice was key. We wanted the kids seeing the same thing over and over again so that they could be successful. Now, the program really evolved in 2 ways. There was sort of a grassroots approach, and it started with the OERs that I had mentioned before. We started with the OERs in reading and English classes, and we realized that you could do an open-ended response to anything. Our art teacher was having kids write about artwork, and our music teacher was having their kids write about pieces of music. If we could all use the same format, that would be common language and more repetitive practice. So we had an in-service where we talked to all of the faculty about when you're asking a question about whatever your subject matter is, don't change the question, just change the format that you ask it so that, and to be perfectly honest, so that our kids are better prepared to write open-ended responses on the PSSA. I mean, that was one of our driving factors, but then it became more than that. This is an example of, well, if you can go back. Sorry. That's an example of the editable organizer that we use. Any subject teacher can type in whatever question they want and modify it so that the kids could do an organizer prior to their writing. It is, no, it's up, sorry. Right here. The kids see this over and over again. This is what the kids recreated on the PSSA. Sorry.
It's all right. We'll just fly through this.
And like I said,
if you hit the slide number, like number 5, and hit return, it will go to that slide.
It will. Okay. All right. We get to see this again.
okay.
There we go.
We had such concrete success with that. We meaning the instructional focus of the month team, which is a team of teachers that meets once a week to try and share best practices and move our school forward, wanted to know what would happen if we recreated that in a 5-paragraph essay format. That's the next slide. So basically that's what we did. We asked teachers who were doing the reading across the curriculum program, our math teachers had kids writing OERs, and we asked them to expand to a 5-paragraph essay. Our world language teachers expanded to a 5-paragraph essay. And what the IFOM team did is, we asked them, what do you want from this essay? What do you want the kids to get out of it? And then we took the organizer, go to the next page, and we just changed it a little bit to fit what the content was the teachers were looking at, but the kids were always looking at the exact same organizer. So we have a 5-paragraph, we call it the standard writing organizer. In the introduction, this is exactly what we want you to write, students. We want a topic sentence, we want background, we want a thesis. And whenever we teach this to kids, we always go back to the cooking model. If you know how to cook, cook. But if you don't know how to cook, follow our recipe until you do know how to cook. And it's been pretty successful. We started with a grassroots approach, going to our friends and going to our colleagues saying, why don't you try this? And that was good, but it wasn't good enough. Go ahead. This is the organizer for the concluding paragraph. And you can, like I said, edit it. Okay. At some point, we realized this program was being really successful for the teachers and students that were using it, but if one of your English teachers chooses not to do it, for us, that's a third of our grade level. So we had to do something that made sure that every student, all means all, every student was learning the same instruction. We have now 2 grade level cornerstone projects. In 8th grade, the 8th graders do a basically year-long research report that is very involved. The directions are really clear. They're all on my website if you want to see it. And the 7th graders do 2 Speaker's Corner projects. They're both research-based. They're shorter. The Speaker's Corner tends to be a 5-paragraph essay to maybe 2 to 3 pages, whereas the research report is a 7 to 10-page paper. These programs have been really successful for us, and we have followed the writing across the curriculum model. First of all, they're cross-curricular, so we're sharing the load. Social studies teachers work with English teachers as well as a department we have called Strategies for Learning. They're vertically aligned and articulated. We know what we want 8th graders to be able to do by the end of the year. So 7th grade teachers know what are the skills that are leading into what we want for this graduation project, basically. Because everyone in the school is doing the same 2 projects, it's super easy to differentiate. The special ed department worked together to figure out a way to modify the Speaker's Corner for all of their students. The gifted support teachers work together to find out a way to enrich it. And because everybody's doing the same thing, it works on 2 levels. 1, the kids are getting what they need, and 2, it also models for teachers how you can easily differentiate writing assignments. These 2 projects are absolutely aligned to Common Core. They're all nonfiction reading, they're writing based on research. One of the outcomes I wasn't really expecting, but has been one of the happiest surprises, is the groupthink. Because these projects are done at the exact same time for every student in the grade, The research report is due on the exact same day, whereas on a given day in any period, maybe 20, 30, 40% of your kids don't do homework. On the day the research report is due, there's never more than 5 kids in the entire grade that don't finish it. Kids are very competitive with each other. How many note cards are you finished? Is your rough draft done? That works for students and teachers as well. To be honest, there are some teachers that, don't do what I want them to do all the time. But because of these big projects, at least during the time we're doing them, they don't really have a choice. Plus, it drives instruction. If you know your student's going to have to do a works cited page, you have to teach them how to do it. So there's been a positive peer pressure related to the project. Everything about our 2 projects is on the Cedarbrook Library website, and I also use that to communicate a lot with teachers as well as students. And because everyone's doing the same thing, I spent some time in the summer doing it, and then any parent from any computer that has internet access can always check to see what's going on. We maximize our space, personnel, and technology with this program because everyone is doing it. Before the year even starts, we have these days blocked off. And it's been a very positive public relations. Like I said, we started a couple years ago with this parent group writing a bad report about us. The 8th grade research report in particular has been a really positive parent communication tool.